Hello again, another Tuesday with Pastor Elias. And so far this year, we have been looking at different aspects and different things within spiritual disciplines. And the first thing we've been kind of focusing on is different aspects of worship. And, we've looked at celebration, we've looked at gratitude. And this week, we're going to cover something that I think is very vital in our spiritual walk, and that is Holy Communion. And Holy Communion has been something for a good portion of my life, up until as a Christian. Really didn't mean a whole lot to me. It just seemed like something we did at church. It was finally a snack break, a very small snack break with the wafers and a little cup of grape juice. And over the years, I've experienced many different methods of communion, from intinction, where we take the bread and pull it off a single loaf, take a piece and dip it into the grape juice, which obviously during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think a lot of people went away from that. We used to do the wafers that you'd grab and have the little cups of communion. I was actually preparing for communion. I couldn't find our grape juice, so I grabbed a grape popsicle, but I don't think I'm going to use that today. Sometimes I joke around. I don't know if it's exactly proper, but why couldn't we use, like, I don't know, garlic Texas toast croutons? Grape juice is good, but can we spice up the bread aspect? I've had tortillas, I've had French loaves, I've heard of cinnamon raisin bread, I've just had straight up white bread. Mainly it's been the wafers, and now they have I'm sure they've had them a while, but these right here that have the wafer and all that, so it's like a limit the germs. So obviously everybody putting their hand into the pot to grab a wafer, probably not the cleanest method of it. But communion is very important in our Christian walk. It is one of the sacraments. As a Nazarene, we believe in two of the main sacraments, and that is baptism and communion. And we have open communion, so it's not just members or just professing Christians, but anybody is welcome to communion. I think that really fits well with what communion is. Barbara Brown Taylor said this: when Jesus holds up the cup and offers what is in it as the fluid of forgiveness, he is not talking to people with a short list of minor sins. He is talking to people who will turn him in, who will scatter to the four winds at the first sign of trouble, and who will swear they never knew him. He is talking to people who should have been his best friends on earth, who turn out to not have a loyal bone in their bodies. And he is forgiving them ahead of time, as surely as if he had said, I know who you are. I know you will not be innocent of the blood of this cup, but I will not let that come between us. Let my life become your life through the blood of this covenant. And it truly is a great tie-in to the Old Testament, as we see with Moses in Exodus 24. Took the book of the covenant and read it to the people. Moses then took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words. Sounds familiar. The Gospels there's multiple accounts. I know in Corinthians they talk about it. In Acts they talk about it. Communion is, you see it quite a bit. But I think the mark from Mark 14:22 through 24. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, take it. This is my body. Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, and they drank from it. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many, he said to them. Communion is such a special time. It's a reminder of the price that God ultimately paid to forgive us of our sins. Jesus becomes that lamb. And this is that symbol of it. In some denominations, in Catholicism, they look at it as a very intimate, it's much more intimate than what we would probably feel comfortable with. And some other Christian denominations maybe take it more seriously, where you have to be a member, or some are maybe a little more loose with it. But I think communion is so vital to our Christian walk. I think we really need to take a step back and look at how vital it is. Years ago, Tim Keller used this illustration from Lord of the Rings to convey the immense meaning of the Lord's table. And this is from The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Enemies and dread weapons pummel the walls of the city of Gondor. As the city gates begin to give way, death, doom, and the bitterness of defeat take hold. The evil Dark Lord grimly claims the city for himself, but in that moment of bleak despair, the riders of Rohan come charging, their horns blowing. J.R.R. Tolkien writes in The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Pippin rose to his feet. He stood listening to the horns. It seemed to him that they would break his heart with joy. And never, in after years, could he hear a horn blow, and the same in the distance without tears starting in his eyes. The Lord's Supper reminds us that when the Dark Lord looms, shrieking, all is lost, the Lord of Light stepped forth and said, "This is my body, broken for you." When we partake, we taste what redemption cost God in order to call us home. Communion is more than just something we do at church. Communion is more than simply something that is just a part of our church culture. Communion is a vital aspect of remembering what God has done for us. Remember, he did this hours before his death. This wasn't something he did, early on, right? This was hours before his death as a stark, symbol of what was to come. And he didn't just do it for those that would obviously believe and be completely faithful, but he did it for all of us because the Lord loves us all. It's the celebration of God's redemptive plan through the sacrificial death of Jesus Christ. That is communion. So I want to give you an opportunity to pause. If you would like to partake with me today, you don't have to, but I have some here. I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to gather those. So if you'd like to do that, I'm going to just talk for a little bit, but if you would like to gather those things, you can pause this video. You can do that. That's perfectly fine. I'll forgive you later. No, I'm joking, but communion is so important. It is so important. I've had people tell me they've had allergic reactions to like the wafers, or they once saw something floated in the grape juice, and so they didn't think of, they're like, that's a little sketchy. And I'm like, hey, that is, why is there something floating in your grape juice? I don't understand that. But communion is a vital aspect of our faith. And I encourage you, next time you have the opportunity to partake, which, I don't know when that will be. But you just remember what it truly represents. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. That's 1 Corinthians 11:26. So let me read Mark 14:22-24 one more time for you. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take it, this is my body." Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them. And they all drank from it. "This is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many," he said to them. And we do this in remembrance for the Lord. Let us remember to not be selfish in our faith. Let us remember the reason for our faith. Let us remember the purpose for our faith. And let us remember those foundations of our faith. Let us celebrate. Let us show gratitude. And let us embrace what is Holy Communion. Not just the routine aspect of it, but the importance of it and what it represents. I pray you have a blessed day. And I pray you will find some time today. Spend 5 minutes today in conversation with the Lord. It's vitally important, church, to spend that time with the Lord. And 5 minutes isn't near long enough, but I have found if you just start with 5 minutes, it'll quickly grow into more time. Soon it'll be 15, 30, 2 hours. And then at some point, if you stay intentional, it grows into praying without ceasing, constant communication with the Father. And I know it can be hard with everything we have in this world, with all the distractions. But you have an opportunity today to show the world what it means like to have our life, our focus, our everything centered around Jesus. And communion is part of that. Y'all have a blessed day, and I hope you can be the light and salt to people in your world. And I hope this video has given you a little bit of hope, or maybe just filled into what communion is about. I know some people aren't exactly sure what communion is all about. But it is important, and I think it's something that we need to kind of really grasp. Obviously, communion isn't going to, save us, but there is grace in communion, and it represents something vitally important in our faith. I pray you'll join me next week as we cover the Sabbath, as we're getting kind of towards the tail end here of the worship aspect of Christian disciplines. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and if you ever have any questions, any prayers, any concerns, any doubts, any praises, I would love to hear them. Please leave them in the comments or text me at 903-387-2198. I would love to field those, and even if I don't have the answer for you, I'd love to find those answers with you and help you along that journey. Y'all have a blessed day, and I hope the Lord that you have a moment with the Lord today that will really push you forward in the light. Y'all have a blessed one.